Hello, everybody. Welcome to High Def Digest's Holiday Movie Roundtable. I am Matt. We're here with Bruce, Brian, David, Moises.
If Moises, that works.
Moises? Okay.
Yeah.
I'm glad I didn't butcher your name. I'm horrible with it.
Dude, if you want to get as Jewish as possible with my name, Moises, Enois, Duarte, and it's just,
Okay.
yeah. I don't know. Ask my dad why. So.
Well, we're here today to talk about the most unconventional and sometimes conventional holiday movies that everybody loves to enjoy. You're going to hear some familiar ones, I think, and then maybe you'll hear some stuff that's new to everybody and make you reconsider whether or not that is, in fact, a holiday movie or if we're just completely off our rockers. So to kick things off, we're going to kick this over to Brian with his first offering of the night.
Yes. Thank you for having me so much. It's so good to talk with you all. So the age-old question, the age-old debate, Die Hard versus Lethal Weapon, Christmas movies, really, right? So I'm going Lethal Weapon all the way for several reasons. Lethal Weapon is a Shane Black movie. And I think when you think of Shane Black, you think of Christmas. And this takes place at Christmas, and I think it invokes a very true Christmas spirit to the movie, but maybe a little darker one. So if you remember in Lethal Weapon, of course, Mel Gibson, Danny Glover, one of the first scenes is Riggs, Mel Gibson, in a very depressed state. He's very sad over the death of his wife, and he is about to shoot himself in the mouth and kill himself. He has a bullet marked for the occasion, but something comes on TV, and he doesn't decide to do it. He's going to stay alive. And I think that kind of showcases or reveals kind of what some people are feeling around the holiday time, depressed, being lonely, maybe what they feel like. But as time goes on, he meets Murtaugh, Danny Glover, a funny, stern family man with a great family. And they go through like this roller coaster of emotions. They both warm to each other. And the end of the movie is them having dinner together for Christmas with the family and becoming friends. So I think that Lethal Weapon movie is like really the spirit of Christmas and what it's one of the reasons it should be about. What do you guys think?
I completely agree. I think that's essentially what a Christmas movie should be, right? It's about that theme of family and togetherness. And as long as a movie accomplishes that, that qualifies for me as a Christmas movie. And Lethal Weapon does that tremendously well, especially because, like you said, it's that budding friendship that they have, between Martin and, oh, I already forgot his name.
Murtaugh.
Murtaugh.
Yeah.
Martin and Murtaugh, man.
Hey, Riggs!
And yes.
Eminem.
So,
Yeah, so I think I just like how the relationship really is super rocky and they don't like each other, but they bond over a certain few things. And I think it's a great Christmas movie. And I like the background because there's a lot of like Christmas lights here and there, and they're talking about Christmas. So I don't know. And there's something, what is it with Shane Black with Christmas? Do we know this? Do we know the answer to this?
I'm really not sure. Like, I feel like he's brought it up in interviews. Like, it's a thing that he just incorporates into it. It's a holiday that everybody's like easily relatable to. It kind of like adds a measure of, I guess, anxiety to the action maybe. But after that, it's just seems to be just a theme. Work it in and have fun with it. But yeah, I kind of agree with you there too. As much as I will defend Die Hard as a good Christmas movie, I think Lethal Weapon is a better Christmas movie. Like the Die Hard, like the fact that it's Christmas is incidental. That's just a reason for everybody to be in the office. It could be the 4th of July and everybody's having a really fancy barbecue in there. And you could have had fireworks and it could have been a patriotic 4th of July movie. And it still would have been excellent. Like the fact that it's just Christmas alone there's that element of the family. He's going to see his kids. He's got the big giant teddy bear, but he's only got the one teddy bear. That's not good for two kids. I know enough. I only have one child so far, and I know you buy two presents. You didn't think ahead.
But you know that Die Hard does have an actual like holiday song in it. You know, at the end, "Let It Snow." You know, so that just
There you go.
you know, with the spirit of Christmas at the end,
Yeah,
as good triumphs over evil, and as Hans lays splattered on the ground somewhere. That would be a nice kind of shot at the end, you know, to kind of see his splattered body somewhere. But anyway, but it does have the "Let It Snow" in it at the end, which adds kind of a fun holiday twist.
And when he's riding in the limo, they run the old Run DMC Christmas album, I think.
Yep.
Which is great, which is good.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of Shane Black, my choice was Kiss Kiss Bang Bang,
Nice.
right? And I absolutely love that one just because of how it's a very standard film noir, right? But for the modern age, and it's just it's Robert Downey Jr.'s character. It's really him, and it was it was right around the time when Iron Man had just come out, right? When
Or
Kiss
just
Kiss
before?
Bang Bang came out.
Was it just
Let me.
before? I think it was in his rebound phase, I know for sure.
Oh, it was just before. Yes.
Yeah, he like not
Yeah.
long before Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, he was supposed to be in that Melinda and Melinda Woody Allen movie, and he got
Mhm.
fired off of that because the insurance company wouldn't bankroll it. They thought
Yeah.
he was too much of a liability fresh out of prison.
Yeah.
Wouldn't do it. And then
Yeah, no, you're right. This was his comeback, and he did an amazing job as Harry. Um, and what an amazing choice to have Val Kilmer play opposite him. Just the weirdest combination. I mean, since we're talking about Lethal Weapon and like seeing this budding friendship, I mean, how much more polar opposites did you want to get with Robert Downey Jr. and Val Kilmer?
yeah,
It's just there's no way that you could see these two be together, but they make it work. And by the end, it really is believable that they become really close friends, and it was awesome. Um,
And it's
sorry.
a casting decision that if you see it on a poster, you're going to be excited to see that movie. Even if you don't know what it's about, those two actors will draw audiences and people will go see it. And I think probably that's why a lot of the success came to that movie.
yeah. Certainly eclectic casting for sure. And like going back also with Val Kilmer, it's one of those movies where I kind of point to people like where he had that rough phase in the mid 90s where they kept trying to push him into being this leading man kind of actor doing the hunky roles where he really wasn't that kind of an actor at all. He's a character actor. Write him a good character and he'll just dissolve into it.
Mhm.
Like
Mhm.
The Missing, that other Ron Howard movie. He just
Oh,
there for like
oh yeah, 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 yeah.
15 minutes, but you're like,
Yeah.
where did this come out of? It's like that's the range of Val Kilmer. Just let him run and have fun.
Hmm.
I do love that movie, Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. It is there's something all the way through that movie. There's an aura of Christmas in the background, and I think the diversity of Robert Downey Jr. being like the loosey goosey funny guy, and Val Kilmer being like the uptight, uh, you know, straight quotations guy is just perfect because those two shouldn't get along and they do. And maybe it is that Christmas holiday that kind of might bring them closer because they have to work so closely together.
Hmm.
I don't know.
Yeah. No, and I think it was a great moment of inspiration for Shane Black to go straight film noir. You know, and even the way it was filmed, right? It's very classic style to it, and it's a beautiful movie to even watch. Even as like you said, Brian, I mean, Christmas is always in the background. Somewhere you see little nice flashes of lights, you know, that are feel very Christmassy,
Mhm.
but the majority of the cinematography is all focused on just this very traditional, very dark, shadowy film, and it just looks beautiful.
Yeah, one thing I like about it is being so fond of the classic film noir is that I find sometimes that when modern filmmakers try to do film noir, they sometimes kind of like overdo it and they try to make it overly uh, intense or atmospheric or and I think very few of them can nail it as well as they did here. You know, I think, you know, LA Confidential is another one, which also has a Christmas connection, by the way.
Yes, yes.
And so, but those are two that have always stuck out to me as far as, you know, doing film noir, you know, well in a modern, even, well, LA Confidential takes place during the original Confidential era,
Yeah.
so maybe that was easier for them to, but that might have even been harder to recreate. But yeah, Kiss Kiss Bang Bang does a really good job of that, which is great.
And they also did a really good job of sticking to the like sort of how should I put it? The the original thematics of or the original theme of film noir, which is to always set it at the edge of civilization versus complete anarchy, you know, and crime. And they did it in Los Angeles, like, you know, a lot of your really best film noir is set in Los Angeles, and it was a nice, great decision to also do that for Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. You know, for me at least, I think that's a really nice little added touch, right? That they did it in that very traditional sense, and they set it in Los Angeles,
Yeah.
Agreed. Very much agree.
right?
All right. Anybody want to jump in or?
Well, I'll jump in. I guess
Okay.
we'll go
Go for
back
it.
in time. Okay, so I tend to focus on the classics, the golden age of Hollywood, and so my choice, one of my choices, is a film that, you know, a lot of people are familiar with, but it doesn't really kind of scream Christmas as in the way that other classics like, you know, Holiday Inn or White Christmas or Miracle on 34th Street are all about Christmas. This one kind of has Christmas in the background. So I'm talking about The Shop Around the Corner,
I love it.
which was a very fun, popular romantic comedy made in 1940 by Ernst Lubitsch, who is famous for, you know, very elegant romantic type movies. And what the premise of the movie is kind of the classic um, uh, the man and the woman don't like each other, so it's they hate each other, but then they end up falling in love. And the twist here is it's with Jimmy Stewart and Margaret Sullivan, who made a few movies together, and they both work in a gift shop in Budapest, and they they don't like each other at all, and they're competitors, and their personalities are just oil and water. But what you find out very early on is that, unbeknownst to them, is that they are secret romantic pen pals. So, like in the days before dating apps and all that sort of stuff, I guess the way people met was they joined these Lonely Hearts, you know, pen pal. Ads. They answered these ads in the paper for seeking companionship, and so they start out with these letters that they're always very anxious to get, and but we as the audience know pretty quickly that it's the two of them are corresponding with each other, and so behind the scenes they're very much in love with each other, but when they're together they can't bear each other, and so they're supposed to meet at one point, and Jimmy Stewart, you know, kind of discovers that it's Margaret Sullivan. He sees her through the window and is horrified. And so the rest of the movie, he's actually quite cruel to her because he knows that she loves him, and although he lets he doesn't let on that he's the one that is also because he's kind of questioning his love for her. Anyway, it takes place around Christmas in the shop, and so it has this very nice holiday feel, and it kind of adds to the romance of it all, and it's just a very nice kind of warm, fuzzy movie. It was actually, remade. A lot of people probably know the story from the Tom Hanks Meg Ryan movie, You've Got Mail, which does bring it up into the email age, which actually now that movie seems quite dated as well.
Today it would be Tinder.
I'm sorry?
Today it would be Tinder.
Yeah, exactly. And there would be a lot less suspense because they'd find out immediately that who they were. And it was also remade a few years after Shop Around the Corner as a musical with Judy Garland and Van Johnson, called, ironically, In the Good Old Summertime. Even though it all takes place practically at Christmas, but they set it in kind of the turn of the century Chicago, and one of the popular songs of the day was In the Good Old Summertime, and so that's what they named the movie. But it's kind of bizarre because it all takes place at Christmas pretty much. But and there's a very lovely song that Judy Garland sings called Merry Christmas, which isn't really heard very often, but I know Bette Midler put it on a Christmas album of hers a few years ago. But it was also translated into a Broadway musical called She Loves Me, and that's been revived many times. And so it's a very popular story, but the first incarnation was back in 1940, and it's a fun movie if you haven't seen it. It plays well this time of year.
That was actually one of the first movies my wife, when we were dating, introduced me to around the holidays. She had me pull it up in my Netflix queue back when they were only distributing discs and not on streaming or anything like that. That was one of the first Christmases we spent together was watching that movie, and it's
Nice.
a lovely, delightful film. Remind me, David, who's the gentleman that plays Mr. Matichek?
Oh, so that's Frank Morgan, who is
Frank Morgan. Thank you.
Yeah, and who is so much more of a terrific, versatile actor, and doesn't get credit because of The Wizard of Oz. Everybody thinks of him that way, but he was wonderful in that, and it was just a lovely movie, and I think it was kind of one of the first of those types of movies where the man and the woman, hate each other and then fall in love, kind of that cliched plot that they have in so many romantic comedies. But that was, I think, one of the first that was that really showed that how butting heads actually, there's an undercurrent of sexual tension and such, even when you're expressing negative feelings towards each other. It doesn't always it's not always as negative as it might seem. So yeah, I really like that.
I also really love it's what you pointed out. It's the fact that they are also competitors. It just adds to the whole thing of why they don't like each other when they, in person. But something about writing a letter allows you to open up more and be more honest, right? And it is one of the nice little touches that they did with You've Got Mail, where it's the same concepts though. You're a little more open and you allow yourself to be much more honest, right? If it were on Tinder, I mean, obviously, no. It'd all be BS about how you like long walks on the beach and, no, it would all be BS. But it
if it was on Tinder too, the movie would have a lot of sex.
Yeah, and especially, I mean, today that movie, either You've Got Mail or The Shop Around the Corner just could not possibly be made because everything is pretty much online. Everything is on social media. I mean, there's not even bookstores anymore. There's really, I mean,
Right.
it's a it's an amazing classic that it's just wonderful. I love it.
Well, it's interesting actually. In You've Got Mail, Nora Ephron, who wrote and directed it, I guess she named the bookstore in You've Got Mail, which I guess is memory serves, is where the action takes place, a lot of it, and she named that bookstore The Shop Around the Corner. That was the name. So that was kind of a nod to, obviously, to the old movie. So that was kind of a nice touch. And Nora Ephron, of course, was always kind of keyed into all of that with her other movies as well. And I don't know. And Sleepless in Seattle has a Christmas angle to it, doesn't it? Or does it? I'm making that up.
Yeah, no, it does. It kind of covers a bunch of holidays, but yeah, there's a Christmas moment.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if it was Christmas that the little boy calls into the radio station or not, or Thanksgiving. I can't recall because it ends on Valentine's Day.
Because isn't she?
No, it ends on New Year's, doesn't it?
New Year's?
Oh, I think you're right. I think it's, well.
Or am I thinking of When Harry Met Sally?
How do you replicate what was it? Love Affair or Love Story? Which one was it? Where like they have to meet on the Empire State Building?
Yeah, Love Affair and An Affair to Remember. So
Affair to Remember.
Yeah.
So
you might be right. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's been too long since I've watched that.
Too many movies, too little time. That's what I always tell myself.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think that's going to go on my tombstone.
All right, on that note, Bruce, what do you got?
Well, with David talking about classic movies, I think I might go ahead and speak on a classic that I chose, a cult classic, Silent Night, Deadly Night Part 2.
Oh, there you go.
So the holidays are rough on everyone. You might have to deal with crazy family members, or maybe you were traumatized as a child by a killer in a Santa suit. And now when you see the color red, you need to blurt out "punish" and just go on a killing spree. Thanks to all the eggnog, tinsel, and screaming kids, our memories become fuzzy during the holidays. So all of these great holiday movies, whether conventional or unconventional, they all kind of run together. For Silent Night, Deadly Night Part 2, you're in luck, because a third of this movie is just footage from the first Silent Night, Deadly Night movie. So no need to worry about memorizing any plots or rewatching anything. It's just footage from the movie pushed into Part 2. It was produced as a revenge because of the first one being pulled from theaters because of protesters. Part 2 picks up where the first one left off, with Ricky Caldwell just retelling the story of the first movie. His family getting killed by a man in a Santa suit. And he's in a padded room with his therapist recounting all of these tales. Now, eventually, Ricky dons his own red suit and goes his own murderous rampage. So this movie teaches us that you better watch out if you're a Catholic nun, if you bully kids, or if you're just taking out the garbage. The performance here by Eric Freeman as Ricky is the real draw of the film. I mean, there's some great set pieces with Linnea Quigley and some various other moments, but it's really this performance as Ricky that sells the film. It's really what made Part 2 a cult classic, and really a wonderful holiday treat for unsuspecting audiences. We have a lot of Christmas-themed horror movies these days: Krampus, Rare Exports, and like 5 remakes of Black Christmas. But in the early 80s, it wasn't such a friendly landscape for Kris Kringle to be seen on the big screen committing a lot of violence. It's one of those unconventional Christmas movies that you can use to sort of thin the herd at your holiday gatherings or virtual watch parties, as we have right now. There's some really great moments to look forward to. So anytime you sit down with this movie and you're doing that watch party, or you're with physical human beings, just scream out "Garbage Day," and you'll know who your real friends are. Unfortunately, we didn't get a chance to review the Scream Factory Blu-ray that came out in September, but it is totally worth it. There are tons of commentaries on there, so you can kind of pick through this amazingly campy, trashy cult horror classic. You kind of see how it was put together. It's one of my favorite holiday watches, and I'd like to put it out there for everyone else to check out as well.
I love this movie, by the way. I love that you mentioned it. And you know what always confused me when I was younger? So this movie, Silent Night, Deadly Night, there was also, was it the first Tales from the Crypt episode called All Through the House about a killer Santa stalking somebody?
I think
I
so.
think so, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it was
Okay.
the first episode, and it's also in the original film from the 70s.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, so I liked, I love Silent Night, Deadly Night, and of course the sequel as well. But it always brought to my attention the Tales from the Crypt one as well, because very similar themes. But oh yeah, this movie is, I mean, is this a movie you could show, like, if you had all of your relatives and families, like, we're watching a Christmas movie, guys, this, and then just film reactions? I feel like people would love it.
What I love is that it starts out, this very dreadful music, and then the credits are just in red. They should be dripping blood, but it's so ominous from the start that I feel like if you were just to put it on at a party, people would just separate immediately. It's great. And then the grainy footage of the family driving down the road, and just a Santa just coming out of nowhere beside a broken down car. That's just an easy indicator for everyone to just head out.
Run. And what was it about a lot of these early 80s movies where they horror movies where they just repeated a lot of the same material from the first movie? Evil Dead Part 2, and I think even Sleepaway Camp Part 2 did the same thing, right?
Yeah.
And they just brought a lot of the same footage and they mixed it
Right.
into the movie.
Budget
Survivor.
God.
No, the story behind this movie is great. I mean, TriStar pulled it from theaters because I think a number of promos were aired on network TV before shows like Little House on the Prairie, and parents just got in an uproar. And then when the trailer started showing the nuns, then the Catholic League got involved. And so they immediately pulled it. And the producers decided that in order to get back, they were just going to remake the movie and pull as much footage as they could and re-edit it. Somehow they were able to get, like $200,000 to just kind of fill in the spaces between the footage. And in doing so, they kind of crafted this whole new movie around it. And I know a lot of people say, oh, half the movie, but it's more like a third. But I think what works best, especially in the streaming age, is that if you can't find the first one, it doesn't matter. If only the second one is, you pick right up where it left off. And arguably, the sequel is not as mean as the first movie. But I think with holiday movies, there's got to be a sense of fun to it. And I know there are mean Christmas movies out there, especially in the horror genre. But I think part two, there's more fun, and especially with Ricky and how his eyebrows are constantly raising up and down, and how he speaks to that therapist with the tape recorder, and the whole thing is just so campy that it's a delight to watch. And I think we should spread the love more around Silent Night, Deadly Night, and those other sequels that they made. I think there's 5 sequels now. They started to lose focus on Christmas, but I still think they're worth seeking out.
My memory of this really when I was a kid was growing up in a little bit more rural part of Michigan. It was at our mom and pop video store, and it was kind of like put up extra high away from anywhere else on the shelf, and like it had this stamp, like must have ID to rent written on it. And I was always really curious about it because it's Santa with an axe hanging out of a chimney and stuff like that, and it was like, I really want to see this. And then even one of my teachers, I believe it was 2nd grade, she put out a list of all these horrible movies that like no kid should ever see. But then she she printed them out and handed it out to all the kids in the class. It was like, this is inappropriate and this will make you a bad kid. Well, we all wanted to see it. And Silent Night, Deadly Night, and 1 and 2 were all on there. And so we're like, yeah, how do we get these? And for like 6 months, that movie was just rented out. Nobody could get it.
Wow.
So, you know,
That's a shopping list, right?
exactly right. It becomes like it's like when Dare told you not to do drugs and where to find the drugs. You're like, oh, so that's where I go to get the drugs that you tell me are terrible. Sound amazing.
It is good. You mentioned the poster art with the axe and the chimney and whatnot. I remember, going to video stores and renting VHSs, and that was always an iconic cover art of Silent Night, Deadly Night. And that's one movie that I would want hanging on my wall. The original poster art, just I think it's just so great. It says so much.
Mhm.
It tells you exactly what you're going to get into right away. All right.
That one, that one, and the image of from Santa Evil. No, wait, is it called Christmas Evil or Santa
Christmas
Evil?
Evil. Yeah.
Christmas Evil, right?
Yeah.
And that poster to go along with Silent Night, Deadly Night. What a great two
Mhm.
posters right there next to each other. Yes.
When I own my own movie theater, that'll be the double billing for Christmas.
I'm there, man. Count me in.
Nice.
Heck yeah.
Well, mine, I'm stretching to try and make this the case that this is a Christmas movie, even though even I believe it doesn't quite work, and that's Prometheus. When they land on the planet, the far off planet where they're just decided to go because these two scientists found some cave drawings that have a guy that going like this. Yeah. Okay, so that's I'm already kind of like falling apart in my argument right now. But like when everybody finally wakes up from their hypersleep and after who knows how many years drifting off through space, Idris Elba, he's smoking away and he's putting up a Christmas tree. And that's like in the final cut of the movie, that's the only real mention until like the very end that it's a Christmas film. But they're trying to layer in so much Christ-like imagery that like, okay, why not have a Christmas theme in there too? In the deleted scenes, there's a little bit more to that where I think Charlize Theron like harasses him, like, what the hell is this? What are you putting up? It's like, this is called a Christmas tree. And if you had a heart, you would know something about it. It's a weird little like interchange that just doesn't quite work, but this movie is also trying so hard to layer in these Judeo-Christianic themes, but it doesn't know how to resolve any of them. Like, what's her name? Noomi Rapace basically becomes like the mother of a demon Christ kind of figure when she absorbs the embryo, and that she has to have the bizarre abortion procedure and I guess it was originally programmed for something else, but she managed to figure it out. It's just a strange movie that takes place apparently over Christmas time that I feel like it's trying to be more than it is, but it can't quite make it work. Does that make sense to anybody at all, or am I just bad?
Oh, that's the whole freaking story. I mean, they don't know how to make the whole concept work and also fit with the storyline of the original, Alien series.
Yeah.
For me, I think it's really kind of funny that you picked the movie that I just cannot get through. That movie is so frustrating to me. And I'm a huge Alien fan.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Too.
Ah.
I was gonna just say, I think I've only seen it twice, I think, but we could probably do a whole video cast on that movie because I would love to just sit here and have somebody explain it to me because I still can't I've never been able to see it twice. I still can't figure it out.
Yeah.
And trying to connect it to the Alien movies and I was actually excited for the last one, which I can't remember the name of off the top of my head.
Alien Covenant, yeah.
Covenant, yeah, because I thought, well, that's going to help explain Prometheus to me, but no, they just kind of nope, we can't. That's impossible. So we're just going to remake Alien again and just go that route or something like that. So unfortunately, that didn't help me out. I was really looking to Alien Covenant to answer some of these lingering questions, or not, they were voluminous questions that I had about it, but no dice there. But yeah, someday somebody's got to sit down with me and go through it like scene by scene and explain the whole thing to me.
I need like a Venn diagram and some road maps and
Right.
a couple of beers or something. Maybe then it'll.
It's beautiful. I mean, I love Ridley Scott. It's a great film to watch, but at the end, I'm just kind of, my head spinning, and I'm just like, I feel like I need to watch it in succession like 3 times. You know, take a day and like watch it 3 times in a row or something, and maybe then I'd be able to figure it out a little bit better. I don't know. Maybe not.
Right.
I don't know.
I feel the same way about the Fast and the Furious movies. You know, it looks great, but I can't make sense of anything. I want to watch it, like you said, 3 or 4 times. What's happening? Where are they going? What are the stakes here?
Yeah. Why is this car coming out of a skyscraper? And
right. No, Prometheus. Yeah, I've only seen it I saw it in the theaters right after it opened, and I haven't seen it since because I felt so confused afterwards. And being a big Alien fan, I felt like I need a lot of time to pass. And the same thing with Covenant. I've been very hesitant to revisit that as well. I don't remember the Christmas scenes from Prometheus, but I think that's a bit of a stretch, Matt, considering all the other choices that we've made here today at the round table. So
well, I wanted to be a little less obvious with my first ones out.
Right.
But it's you could this movie that like it frustrates me because I can't count how many times I've watched this now. I think I went to it twice in the theater, one 2D, one 3D, and then I've owned the 3D version, and I think it's a gorgeous movie. I keep wanting to go back to it. And I keep feeling like I'm about to make sense of it. Then something happens and throws off my theory. It's gone. Just doesn't work anymore. And like, that was one of my latest ones. I was actually kind of thinking of like, oh, maybe I could write an article about how this is a Christmas movie. And I got maybe a paragraph or 2 in. I'm like, yeah, this is cool. This is working. Falls flat. Can't make it work. And I feel like that's the unfortunate theme of that movie. There's a lot of great ideas. There's things happening. Didn't work.
Well, isn't in like Prometheus is Christmas, but isn't there a Christmas scene in Covenant too? Don't both Davids kiss under the mistletoe?
Oh.
It's an awkward kiss, but
I was so distracted by their flute playing that the whole playing with himself, which would make it more masturbatory, I guess. But that's another one of those where there's so much heavy religious iconography that's just kind of shoved into there, like you're supposed to draw some meaning from it and some spiritualism from it, but it doesn't know how to manage itself. And that's where I almost feel like maybe Prometheus needed like Shane Black to come in and rewrite just a little bit. Okay, let me show you how to add Christmas into the sci-fi action film and maybe make the theme relevant.
And now I want a Shane Black alien movie.
Ooh.
Well, he did a Predator movie on his own.
True. He did do Predator Christmas. Yes, he did.
Well, I do like the angle that you're putting with the whole Christ thing. I mean, it might fit into that whole Christmas theme.
And they're travelers from a distant land. They followed a star.
Yeah. Told right there, you
go. Like, there's so many. Like, there it is. Then Nick Fistful.
Yeah.
And that's where like Covenant goes back to that a little bit. Like there's a lot of people that are just deeply religious on it. It's like, okay, so maybe this should have been like in the first movie where they're not scientists exploring, they're actually missionaries. Then you could have gotten somewhere maybe.
Oh.
Yeah. That was one idea that I had. But then it's also like I'm rewriting the movie in my head and you can do that for hours with both of those.
I like it.
All right. Back to you, Brian.
All right. So buckle up, everyone. Eyes Wide Shut is the ultimate Christmas movie that embodies all of the best Christmas feelings, Yuletide. And this is true. I know some people's minds are boom blown, but Eyes Wide Shut is in fact the ultimate Christmas movie, and I'll tell you why. So Eyes Wide Shut came out in 1999 based on the novella Tromneville by Arthur Schnitzler, and it came out in 1999 by Stanley Kubrick. I was 18 years old and definitely went to the theater to see that. And so this movie, well, in this true sense of what Christmas is about, it's about birth or rebirth in culture. And that's basically what Dr. Harvard, Tom Cruise, goes through in this movie. And it basically is Stanley Kubrick's Dark Christmas Carol, basically a Scrooge character where Tom Cruise is visited by ghosts of Christmas past and present and future. And so basically how the movie starts is in this big party sequence where there's tons of lights, very fairy tale like, and two women take Tom Cruise and he tells them, "Where are you taking me?" And he goes, "Don't you want to know where the rainbow ends?" And it's this that's where this like fantasy starts of him going on these visited by these ghosts. So on the surface, the Harford family is picture perfect. They are the perfect family. But underneath that all, they're completely not. And where Tom Cruise goes on this voyage of, depravity and dead prostitutes and an orgy, he's constantly at the last minute says no to all this and tries to get back to his wife to fix things. So that's basically what this movie is repairing and giving a rebirth to his marriage with Nicole Kidman, which at the very end of the movie, she tells him what she wants for Christmas. There's one thing she wants for Christmas inside a toy store, which very symbolic there. And I think that this movie with Tom Cruise, avoiding doing the deed, having sex with the HIV positive woman and going to the orgy and just coming so close to all of these things that would send him out of control. He stops everything at that last second and it brings him closer back to his house, which is where he finds the mask on the pillow next to his wife is when he breaks down and they spill the beans and they can start to rebuild their future there. And I believe in pretty much every scene, there's a Christmas tree and Christmas lights in the background, which I think is very reminiscent of something, from the Christmas spirit of, or even Hanukkah Festival of Lights type of thing, since Kubrick was Jewish. But I do think this is basically the best Christmas story for a modern day, told in a very different, dark way, but it ends up like a very happy movie. And I know I might be in the minority here of thinking this way, but I do think this is the true embodiment of Christmas, is Eyes Wide Shut. Anybody agree with me here? Or am I just reaching for stars?
I'm actually in complete agreement. Eyes Wide Shut, since the first time I saw it in theaters, I thought, what a cool idea to place it in Christmas time.
Mhm.
So, no, I remember very fondly when I saw that because as a huge Kubrick fan, I had to see it in theaters, I mean, the opportunity to see Kubrick on the big screen, you just have to. So, um, I love the idea also of how much more holiday can you get except to have doubts in your marriage and adultery. I mean,
Right.
come on. You have to explore your darker side of your sexuality and your fantasies. How much more Christmas can you get?
Right. And I think that's a lot of part about the movie is the infidelity, which I think there's a running
Mhm.
joke in this movie where Tom Cruise plays a very, suave doctor, very handsome, but he cannot get laid in the movie, even by choice of one or another. And even the password at the aristocratic orgy is fidelio, which is Latin for fidelity, and which brings him ultimately back to his wife, where they can have that fun conversation in the toy store, which abruptly ends after she tells him the one thing that she wants. And I think just Kubrick was on another level, which I don't know if we'll ever be on, but he had that in mind, and taking that story from that novella and turning it into this Christmas story is just ever so perfect. And I think the symbolism of wearing the masks and Tom Cruise, putting down his doctor's coat and putting on this cloak and mask be something different, because maybe people are trying to be different during Christmas as opposed to when they are the rest of the year. I don't know. That, again, E and I are doing, I don't know, we're on the same page. What about everybody else?
No, I agree. It's one of those that I saw it when it came out in the theater, because I worked the movie theater, my local movie theater when it came out. Funny side story, my manager, when the Red Band trailer came out, he would string that up in front of whatever kids movie he was showing in the morning during a weekday when there would only be like 2 or 3 families, and just wait for him to come out pissed off. It was one of his running jokes that he just had the best time with, because all he had to do was just give them free passes, so they only lost like $10 for the day. But that was one of the funniest things for me.
How very Fight Club.
Exactly. Yeah, he would just run it, and it's just like, just wait for it. And I'm like, what are you doing? Oh, you're doing it again. Damn it. And I'm like 18 years old, and like, I'm the one that's standing at the ticket counter, so I'm going to catch the flack first. And then he's just sitting there waiting with his passes. But no, I thought it was just this hypnotic journey film that it wasn't immediately lost on me when I first saw it that it was a Christmas film. It's you, and especially as like I went to college, moved away from home, came back from home. It's this journey of reevaluating your life. So like in the relationships that you have around you, and seeing people that you thought you knew really, really well, and then all of a sudden you learn something new about them. And that tends to happen around the holidays, because you don't see a lot of family for most of a year. If you're lucky, maybe twice a year, and that's conveniently Thanksgiving and Christmas. And it's always kind of this disaster moment for some people. Like, thankfully I haven't had that like earth-shattering moment where like, I thought I knew you. But at the same time, I can see how it's easily possible where it just becomes this, like, I have to find what my normal is again after learning something that I thought was true is a complete lie. And that's where like the holiday link to me fits so well. And yeah, like Brian said, it's Tom Cruise at like peak of his career. Even though he was still married to Nicole Kidman, he was still a hottie by everybody's standards. He wasn't the crazy Scientology guy that a lot of people want to dismiss him for. And he is the least sexual character in the entire film. I always thought that was pretty smart casting and writing for Kubrick.
Right. I agree with that.
Now, like you, Brian, I saw Eyes Wide Shut, late teens, early 20s, right after it came out. And, I was kind of interested in a lot of controversial movies and a lot of like Matt was saying, like the list of movies you shouldn't see. And upon seeing those early trailers, big stars, Stanley Kubrick, this, checked a lot of those boxes. And then once you started knowing more about it, it was, really exciting to see. It affected me deeply. It's one of those Christmas movies, I guess, that it's a tough one for me to rewatch, I guess, because of how much how much is contained within the story and all of those themes. And I have my little Stanley Kubrick Blu-ray collection. And I'd say Eyes Wide Shut is the one that's kind of the hardest to always reach and pull out for a rewatch. I got to always kind of be in the right mood. It's weighs heavy on my shoulders, I think. Um, but I'm happy when I do get to sit down and see it, but it takes a lot for me to get into it. It's a great watch. I love the way it looks. I love, Sidney Pollack's character. I love all of those sequences. The lighting is great. I mean, it's Stanley Kubrick, so what am I saying? But I'm glad that it's on our list here. It's one I think more people should see in the context of a holiday movie, because of all of those themes inside.
Right. And I think you bring up a good point visually. I think with all those Christmas lights being everywhere in the scene, especially in the opening party, I think that's very reminiscent of his earlier film, Barry Lyndon, with all the candle lights.
Yeah.
And I think that's, bringing that Christmas side from Barry Lyndon to Eyes Wide Shut, which is really good.
And also to go on with or to add on to what you said, Bruce, about the movie being very heavy or feeling very heavy. I mean, that's to Kubrick's genius, right? I mean, that he knows how to do that with such simple camera work. He knows how to design something so that it feels weightier, right? And I remember when I went to go see it in the theaters, it was while I was on a date with a girl with that at the time I was really into her, but it was one of those things where I was really nervous because she was very attractive and she had a freaking Disney singing voice. I mean, she was just awesome, and she wanted to be a filmmaker, and so really wanted to, and what was really kind of cool is that she found out that I was really big into Kubrick. So Eyes Wide Shut was about to come out, and she was the one that asked me out on a date to go see that. And we were like, and we both sat in the very front row because that's her place to sit. She likes to be at the very front row. It's like, well, yeah, of course, man. We're on a date. We do what you want. And the whole time, just watching on a big, massive screen, the cinematography, the themes, it really does. I mean, I remember she and I both walked out of there just, what the hell?
Yeah.
It was weighty.
Did y'all try to hit up a masked party afterwards?
We used that same secret password. Apparently, they had a locked room in the theater in the back.
Every person. Like, wait, what?
Yeah.
Thanks.
But yeah, no, I love that movie. I think it's amazing.
David, do you like that movie?
I have never seen that movie. I was hoping nobody would ask me that because that's like one of the few Kubricks that I've never seen. And I'm trying, as you guys were talking about it, I was like, gosh, I really got to see this movie. And I was, so I don't really know why I didn't see it. I guess at the time, I guess I had heard that when it first came out, it was very troubled production. It took forever I don't know how many years it took for them to make and everything. And I heard that there was, and I guess I had kind of heard that, it's kind of disjointed and I don't know how well it hangs together. And so I think I skipped it when it first came out, and I just never got around to seeing it. So I apologize that I can't, contribute to that. But now I'm definitely going to have to check it out. And is it out on? There's no 4K of that yet, is there?
No 4K.
They've teased the 4K for like a year and a half now, but they've yet to pull the trigger on it.
Yeah. Well, it's a movie for the whole family to enjoy.
Yes, of course.
Didn't it partially destroy Tom and Nicole's marriage? Wasn't that partially? I guess I read something that it was just...
supposedly Kubrick was really hard on Kidman. And that was part of the reason why there were so many production problems, because Kubrick supposedly could not get the performance that he wanted out of her. And at one point, I think he really got her crying when she did that whole scene and she was opening up about her dream. And that's when Kubrick was just constantly laying on her. And apparently that was so yeah, it was very troubled.
Yeah. there's interviews about his treatment of actors in the sense of
Yeah.
how he tries to get the good performances out them is to wear them down. And Tom and Nicole signed an exclusive 2-year contract just to work with Kubrick on this movie because Kubrick's known for 100 to 200 takes per shot. So they were with him for 2 years, and as you've seen in the Shining documentary, he can be he can wear you down.
Yeah.
I guess he did the same thing to Shelley Duvall. Apparently,
Yep.
she
Right.
Yeah.
Wow.
Even
Yeah.
Scatman
No,
Crothers-
oh, I'm sorry. I interrupted someone.
Oh, and even Scatman Crothers on Shining as well. He apparently
Mhm.
broke down just crying. He's like, I don't know what you need from me. And Jack Nicholson had to be like, 2 more, we're done.
Yeah, no, I think for me, when it comes to Eyes Wide Shut, the amazing performance that Nicole Kidman did, on that one shot where she was revealing that dream of hers and really trying to figure out her marriage and stuff like that, that just was an amazing performance. And supposedly it was because Kubrick had her do it so many times that her face, that really is her, just worn out, tired, exhausted, and she wanted it to be over. And it's amazing.
Well, you fast forward a couple of years and she does Dogville with Lars von Trier, and he just wore her down into pieces for that. I mean, another director that asks a lot of his actresses. I'm not going to say that I'm a Nicole Kidman fan. I love her performances, through the 90s, early 2000s, but, she works with a lot of very challenging directors. And I love her in Dogville and I love her in Eyes Wide Shut. I think also pairing her with her real life husband, I think added, at least for me as an audience member, this sort of subconscious connection to everything going on. And if you're in a relationship and you're watching Eyes Wide Shut and seeing 2 actors who are married playing a troubled married couple, that adds such a deeper element to the experience. And I haven't seen anything she's done recently. I know she's been in a few limited TV series, but I think her performance in Eyes Wide Shut was certainly an amazing output. Yeah,
For sure. All right, you're up, sir.
All right. So my second choice, since we're talking about really sad stories, Gremlins. Uh, Gremlins. What I love about this story, other than, it's a story that we all are very familiar with. A young man receives a gift from his father, and it was like by far the most exotic pet that you can possibly imagine. And uh, through their little adventures, he unfortunately makes a few little errors in taking care of this exotic animal, and it gives birth to 5 other creatures just like himself. And him just not being very responsible, young man, keeps happening, and to the point where these little cute furry creatures become complete utter monsters, right? And they destroy the entire town. So one of my favorite things about the movie is obviously Dick Miller. He's amazing in that role. And Judge Reinhold, just awesome as well. But for me, the real highlight of the film and what makes it a really great Christmas film is Phoebe Cates.
Nice.
And
One of my favorites.
when she does her whole story about why she hates Christmas, that becomes to me very central to really what's going on in this movie, where she kind of represents that everyone has lost the meaning of Christmas, of what you can actually, of having family, of being together. And unfortunately, her story comes with tragedy, right? But I also love that then, for me at least, it plays with the larger theme of mass consumerism during the holidays. And that seems to be what these little creatures seem to represent. You know, it's they have to be green because that's the color of envy and jealousy and desire and money and just consume, consume, consume without any care for anybody else, right? And for me, it's a must every Christmas. I just have to watch it just because it plays like your typical Christmas movie at the beginning with dad showing up or coming home for the holidays, right? And presenting his son with a gift. And it just, but then it quickly like spirals into something much darker and twisted and bizarre. And it's a great kids film. You know, the other reason why I love this movie so much is because you could not possibly make a movie like that anymore, where studios don't want to take a risk on something so weird, so bizarre, so out there. You know, they're not going to put up that kind of money for that kind of stuff anymore. Not nowadays. Now it has to be something that already has a foundation and it has a fan base, right?
Mhm.
That's what that's what studios want to invest in. And this is just one of those great movies where no, the story was just so weird, so fantastical, and a studio took a chance on it. And it's a awesome kids film that
Mhm.
today people probably would not obviously consider it to be a film for kids.
Right. Well, they didn't
Uh,
dumb the movie down for kids at
they
all, and
did.
it's what's great.
Mm.
And in addition to this being a great Christmas movie, because I agree completely with you, E, the use of music in this movie
Mm.
never like that haunting song. Do you see what I?
Yes.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
that is still haunting to this day. Also, I'm so glad you brought up Phoebe Cates' story, just because I think that really what you said is perfect about that. I actually wrote an article about that monologue she does and how it's one
Oh.
of the funnier monologues in cinema, in a fact that it is completely out of left field in such a horrific story that part of you laughs at it because it's so crazy and so graphic
Yeah.
in a kids movie. But there's also that sense of loss and hating Christmas because most movies more or less deal with celebrating Christmas, and sometimes there's like, oh yeah, I hate Christmas, but Phoebe Cates' character hates Christmas. And for this diabolical, horrific accident that happened in her childhood, which she describes in full detail to somebody she
Mhm.
loves.
Mhm.
And then she has the gremlins to worry about. So I'm really glad
And
you brought that up.
and in the middle of a bank. Like
Yeah, in the
why a
middle of a bank.
bank? Wow.
No, I love that you brought that up because I love that movie too, and it is, you know, it is a sad movie as well, but also almost a happy one, and I
Yeah.
love that Christmas in it. Yes.
Yeah, I completely agree with the kids movie angle. When I was clerking a video store a few years ago, I'd always have parents ask, you know, how do I get my kids into horror movies? How do I get my kids watching a movie that's a little scarier, you know? And because they'd been through every scratched up DVD in the kids section, they wanted to kind of graduate them to something a little bit more intense, I guess. And I always go to Gremlins as, you know, your kid's first horror movie because I think, you know, the Christmas element aside, it has the, you know, the wonderful creatures themselves, but also, you know, there's so many elements to that movie. The the actors are very familiar to people of our generation, of Phoebe Cates, Judge Reinhold, and I think it's an easy recommendation because it's scary enough and it's creepy enough. And especially during the holidays, you can kind of fit it in with all those other Christmas movies that we're talking about as well.
Yeah, I was always surprised how quickly. I remember seeing it when it first came out, and it wasn't. You know, I remember the ads for it and everything, and they didn't really emphasize, if I remember correctly, the dark side of the movie at all. It was kind of
Hmm.
billed, you know, as this kind of a kids movie, and these kind of Ewoky like characters, and so I remember going to see it, and I was just kind of stunned how it kind of evolved and took this super dark turn and became pretty terrifying. I've always had, ever since I saw the last chapter of the movie Trilogy of Terror, I've always been afraid of little little figures like that, and I thought they did a great job in Gremlins of making it these cute figures truly terrifying, and I was totally unprepared for any of that. It was kind of on a different level. It was kind of the same way I remember seeing the trailers for Terms of Endearment, which made it seem like this happy, family comedy, and then halfway through it, it's all about cancer, and you're crying your eyes out and everything. I'm like, wait a second, this isn't what they advertised. I didn't come to see this. So it was kind of like that, but they did a brilliant job of weaving that story. I thought,
Yeah, and Gremlins, and because of what you just said, David, because of the promotions and the way that they promoted it, Gremlins is one of the very first PG-13 films, because it just they completely they really did bad when it came to that, and it scared kids to pieces. That and Raiders of no, not Raiders of the Lost Ark, sorry, Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, right? They became the first two to then came out with that specific rating, just to let you know, it is kid friendly to a degree, only to a certain level.
Well, and that was also, for me, it's like, I mean, I have vague memories of going to see this movie with my sister. I think maybe it was all of 2 or 3. And I remember enjoying it because, like, my sister and I would already watch, like, censored for television versions of horror movies on local stations. But still, it's like the scene that still scared me the most was actually when they were in the bank in Phoebe Cates' story. That's the scariest thing to me. Still, it's like the most haunting moment. But it's also, this was in that era where, you were talking about, like, studios just won't make a movie like this. But at the same time, like Steven Spielberg was the one that was attaching his name to this. He was producing and writing Poltergeist. He made like a quintessential family movie with E.T., and then he proceeded to just strip that apart, destroy that image with all these movies like Poltergeist and now Gremlins and other things. And like even he won't attach his name to a movie like this anymore. Like, you don't see whatever this generation Spielberg is going to make a movie, putting the money behind it himself to some degree and making sure it got made, that completely blows apart that narrative conceit of like, this is what a family movie is. It's like, no. This is a family movie. Whether or not your family likes it, we don't really care. We just wanted to make this one. And you just don't see that anymore. Which is...
Yeah, and I think the consumerism bit about it too is perfect that you touched on, E, because Spielberg did E.T., Spielberg attached his name to Gremlins. And I think, E.T. and Gizmo are, in the realm of like the sweet alien, but even Billy's dad says one in every household. That was the goal, I think, maybe with E.T. and now with Gizmo. And I think, part of Christmas is, you're buying all the gifts for everybody. You want. So I think that's also a great little tidbit in the Christmas realm there.
No.
Nice.
Well, I guess it's my turn. So let's go back in time. So there's another movie that I really like that I never been on Blu-ray. By the way, just so people know, I mentioned Shop Around the Corner earlier. It's actually going to be released on Blu-ray this coming Tuesday for the very first time. So it's going to be coming
just
out
in time for Christmas.
Exactly. So I forgot to mention that the last time. But then this one that I'm going to mention does not, I don't think I know it doesn't have a Blu-ray release yet. And it's, but you can find it on Turner Classic Movies, usually during the holiday season. It's called The Man Who Came to Dinner. And it's based on a very successful Broadway play by Moss Hart and George S. Kaufman. it's kind of a madcap, not quite screwball, but maybe some screwball elements to it. It takes place around Christmas time, and it's just kind of has this family feel about it. It's about this this pompous, egotistical. I can't remember exactly his profession, but he comes to this small town. He's a famous man. He's a columnist or a critic, and he comes to give a speech in this town, and he's forced to, much against his will, have dinner one night at before this speech at the home of this well-to-do citizen in town. And so he comes there, and as he's coming into the house, it's been snowing, there's some icy steps, he slips on the steps and he falls and he hurts himself. So he has to be carried in, and he's extremely cantankerous, and he overplays the whole thing, that he's in great pain, and so has to recuperate actually in this house, and because of who he is, he completely takes over the entire house. He starts ordering everybody around. He calls in his entire staff. They overtake everything. He calls nurses in, and it turns out actually that they think that he's they take x-rays, they think he's broken something. It turns out that the x-rays were for somebody else, and he's actually pretty fine, but he decides to continue to play up this infirmity that he has, just because he can control everybody. He's trying to keep his secretary from marrying this person that she's met because he's so grasping. He doesn't want to lose her because she's the perfect secretary, so he tries to sabotage their relationship. And it's kind of this whole madcap thing, but it turns out that he actually becomes a little bit transformed, kind of like Ebenezer Scrooge does a little bit, where he tries to actually fix the family, which is kind of dysfunctional where he's staying. And but it's kind of, everybody kind of has a little story arc, and they there's kind of, they get together at the end, and it's kind of one of those movies about how families can come together, and how, you know, the crazy uncle, you know, comes to your house for Christmas, and you kind of can't get rid of him and dread his being there, but you know, it turns out he's not such a bad guy after all, and it's kind of a heartwarming film, but there's a lot of comedy in it, and it's a good time. So it's one of those movies too that takes place at Christmas, but you know, doesn't really, the spirit of Christmas is in it, but it's not really about Christmas. So it's kind of a non-traditional Christmas movie in that sense. But it's with Bette Davis. She plays the secretary, but she's not really the lead. The lead character is played by an actor, Monty Woolley, who played the role on Broadway. He's very funny. And it's got a good cast. Ann Sheridan's in it as well, a fine actress from the old days, and so it's a fun movie, and I don't know, probably not too many people have seen it, so we may not have a very spirited discussion about it, but I thought I would throw it out there as a recommendation.
That's a great one, and there's a remake for it, right?
Yes, I think there's a 1970s remake with Orson Welles.
Yep.
Oh, really? Sorry.
Yeah.
Interesting. He would be perfect playing that.
Yeah. Oh, if I remember correctly, he was. He was obnoxious. Yeah.
Somewhere actually he wanted to play it in the original, so maybe that's an interesting. And of course, he was so young at the time, always playing older. Yeah. But I think he was interested in it as well. But that's interesting that he did it later on when he was more the proper age, etc., and proper girth probably as well.
The 70s era, yeah.
Yeah.
The 70s Orson Welles.
It looks like a quick search that if you have HBO Max, you can watch The Man Who Came to Dinner.
Oh,
the
the
original?
It's what it looks like, yeah.
Oh, okay, cool.
HBO Max is doing great. They're showing a lot of good classic films on HBO Max. Yeah.
That's good to know, because my story with this movie is, over the last 3 years now or so, I've only been able to watch it in 10 and 15 minute increments at my in-laws. I've never gotten to start it and finish it. it's just one of those movies that, like you said, it's on TCM, and I'm like, this looks delightful. I want to watch it. Something happens. Someone comes in the room, and the movie's spoiled. I'm like, I'm here.
Well, it's kind of one of those movies that it's the same thing. I see it on TCM. We'll just happen to flick on the TV at some point, and it's on TCM. But it really does draw you in. Because so much is going on, and so I find myself that if it is on, I really want to. Even doesn't matter where I come in the movie. It's kind of like, oh, I kind of want to keep watching. And but it's true. It's on a lot the holiday season usually. So
yeah, that's where I'm used to it. Is going up to my in-laws, trying to watch it. Maybe my niece runs through and she just wants to watch something else, or oh nope, it's time to sit down for dinner.
Right.
I don't have to have family. Good one.
Yeah, Bruce, why don't you?
Sure. Well, I'm going to follow your lead again, David, with a classic here, and that's On Her Majesty's Secret Service. So people of a certain age, maybe not the Tinder generation, will associate James Bond with Christmas time, whether it's USA Network or Sci-Fi or some Turner-owned station. They'll do the 8 Days of Bond marathon, and they'll just run them all back to back. And as you're filling yourself up with eggnog or whatever, you can just tune in and watch whatever Bond movie is going at odd hours of the night, or as soon as you get up in the morning, you need a little Blofeld in the morning, right? You get sucked into these action scenes, and soon the sun's peeking over the horizon if you didn't quite make it to bed. On Her Majesty's Secret Service, it's the only one to date that can be considered a Christmas movie. I know this is sort of a loose interpretation of it. George Lazenby, his singular outing as 007. It's this unfairly maligned entry in the Bond franchise, I think. He takes a Christmas ski trip to the Swiss Alps. We have this tragic love story. We have a bobsled chase that's, it's actually a lot more exciting than it sounds. Doesn't involve any Jamaicans. And I think what makes On Her Majesty's Secret Service work so well is that, it's really the first time that Bond develops this truly deep relationship with someone, and he gets married, and we foresee this sort of different side of the character. That Louis Armstrong song, "We Have All the Time in the World," was such a huge hit, and things never really work out for Mr. Bond, no matter what he's doing. And I think the ending of this film was very tragic, and sadly it was the end of George Lazenby as James Bond as well. You've got a Christmas village that he visits. You've got all those cool European ski fashions, the beautiful Swiss Alps. For a American kid, kind of seeing all of those images in this movie, it kind of transported me to another time and place. It's one of those Bond entries, I think, that if you sit down and watch it, you're really going to get sucked into it. There was a new Blu-ray that came out in July. I think it's like $10 now on Amazon. Well, it's not a conventional Christmas movie. I think it's certainly unconventional. You can sneak that James Bond movie in, and surely anyone will want to watch it. I think it's a great pick. I think it has enough Christmas elements to it, while still getting that James Bond watch that everybody can, join in on.
Yes, and this movie gave the world Dr. Evil, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, very true.
It did. No, this movie's great, and I love George Lazenby. I like him as Bond, and this has all the Christmas elements to it.
Yeah.
And, I mean, for people who love James Bond, because there's some really big fans out there, and for action films, I mean, this should be in your rotation. This should be part of the Christmas list.
No, I totally agree. I love, Telly Savalas. I mean,
Yeah.
Oh my.
he's amazing in this movie.
Mhm.
I love, you know, there's so many. Diana Rigg is amazing. I think that the movie was cast really well. I love all the stories about George Lazenby, punching out the stunt man, and that's how he got the job. I'm not up on all of my, Bond canon drama, but in looking at some stuff about the film, you hear all these great stories. He's this Australian, knitwear model, and then he is suddenly James Bond. I think it's this great story. And I always like the underdog films in franchises, and I like this one a lot because it's one that's never really spoken about like a lot of the other films. I like Sean
Yeah.
Connery, but I do like this film a lot.
Yeah.
So how many Bond films are there? There are 22?
5.
23 now with
Ooh.
No Time to Die, right?
Okay, so if there's 23 and this is the only one that's Christmas themed,
I think so.
which is crazy to me. I feel
Hmm.
like there would be more Christmas themed Bond movies.
Could even be a name of a Bond girl, Christmas Present. That could be.
We did have Dr. Christmas and Tomorrow Never. Wait, no.
Oh, right.
The third Brosnan.
Yeah, because the Pierce Brosnan film, Christmas
Never
comes
Dies.
only once a
The
year.
world is not enough.
The world is not enough.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the last line is Christmas comes twice this year.
Yeah.
Oh, so it takes place around Christmas then, but it's not thematic in the background.
Right. Yeah, I forgot
No,
about
I
that
don't even
element.
think it's even Christmas. It's what's her name? Charlie
Denise Richards.
Denise Richards. Her last name is Christmas, and so
Oh.
his joke
Oh,
is
they did too.
they're
Wow.
in bed together.
Her first name is
Twice a year.
Christmas. Dr. Christmas Jones.
That's it.
Christmas Jones.
Oh no, I agree with you, Bruce. I love On Her Majesty's Secret Service. This was a movie growing up. Like I grew up with Sean Connery, and I grew up with a few Roger Moores. The first Bond movie I went to see in the theater was License to Kill. So I knew Timothy Dalton. I didn't know George Lazenby. It wasn't until I think just before Pierce Brosnan took over that I discovered On Her Majesty's Secret Service. I'm like, why haven't we been watching this one forever? And I don't know why we never even owned it. It was just that movie that was just ignored for so many other people, I think, too. And it's for me personally, it's one of the best tightly constructed movies because it's very thematically rich. There's a very clear beginning, middle, and end to it. It fits within what came before with Sean Connery, but it is its own beast, and
Mm-hmm.
still pays tribute. It pays homage to all the other things that's happened before, but then it also has a final moment that's just devastating, and there's no other Bond movie that does that.
Yeah, for me, since you guys are bringing up the fact that this movie seems to be missed a lot, it's kind of funny because for me, my memories with the James Bond movies is watching them with my grandfather. So a lot of my love for James Bond and Westerns comes from my grandfather because he was really big into them. And this is while we were still living in Mexico. So as a little kid watching these movies with him specifically, this was the one movie we always did miss. We never really considered it as part of our watching together. And it's kind of funny that you bring that up because even my own memories is that I never really got to see On Her Majesty's Secret Service until much, much later in years. So yeah, it's just kind of funny that even I personally missed out on it.
Yeah, growing up, like we had every tape for every Bond movie except that one.
Yeah.
And I even remember like looking at it at a store with my dad. It was probably like a Kmart or something when they were still open, just being a kid and be like, hey, this is a James Bond movie we don't have. And it's like, yeah, we're not going to get that one. I don't know why. I just assumed it was bad. So like I went into the movie assuming it was terrible. And then I'm like Bruce, I was watching the 8 Days of Bond or whatever it's called. And it's like, no, this movie's actually really freaking good. can I watch this now without commercials?
Do we know why Sean Connery didn't do it? Because he did, before, and he did several right after, and that was kind of a blip. Do we know why he decided not to do that one?
My understanding was he just didn't want to keep doing this sort of movie anymore. And he was just like, I've had enough. I've done, 4 by that point? And he's like, I'm good. We're done. And then Lazenby came. He flopped for whatever reason that happened on the sidelines for that. And then the Broccoli family, out of like absolute desperation, like, here's a huge bucket of cash. And Sean Connery was like, absolutely, I'll take all of that money and more. Like, I think he even got back end on the gross.
Yeah, but didn't he do another spy movie where he kind of played Bond, but he wasn't
did,
Bond?
which is the one with Kim Basinger in the 80s.
Yeah.
Where it's basically Thunderball again. And that was one of those where they're like, yeah, we'll throw you a whole bunch of money. But by that point, he'd been removed from it for like 20 years. He was like, okay, yeah, I'm curious what a 50-year-old Bond would look like.
It's never say never again. With
there you go. Thank you. Yeah. Yes.
That's always the one that when I would see the artwork,
yes.
I would reach for it and think, nah, I'm going to pass on that one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Where he has the rocket motorcycle. Good one. Good pick. My last one, I'm going with Trading Places. It's very on the nose, I feel, a little bit, but it's not just a Christmas movie for me. If I remember right, within the story, it picks up almost immediately after the Thanksgiving holiday, plays through Christmas, and finishes just after the New Year.
Mm-hmm.
So it's one of those movies that this cold, dark, wintry period. I didn't see this movie until I was in my teens, and my family finally got cable, and we got HBO because we were like, oh my God, look at all the movies we can watch. This was always on, like either Showtime or HBO or one of those movie channels, like round the clock. You could always turn it on and, hey, look, Trading Places is on. Great. So I became a big fan of the movie through that. And as such, I got used to the fact that it's just on from basically Thanksgiving straight through New Year's. And so for me, it's one of those movies that is just, it's got all the holiday themes. It's got the Christmassy theme of the Christmas party where Dan Aykroyd is the hobo Santa that's horribly drunk and tries to plant drugs on Eddie Murphy, and he's I'm already laughing because I'm thinking of the scene. He's on the bus or whatever at the end, and he's stolen the salmon, and he pulls it out of his coat, and it's covered in his beard, and he starts eating the salmon.
Yeah.
And then he's just before that, he's had another horrible low moment where he thinks the gun is going to work, and he tries to shoot himself, and it just clicks dry, and he's like, screw it, and he throws it, and then it fires. It's just like, I can't get your break. It's one of the best tragic comedies of that way, but it also plays into like holiday greed.
Yeah.
You got the Duke brothers sparring these two guys, innocent guys, against each other for no reason other than a $1 bet. And then on top of that, you get the bad guys getting their comeuppance in a grand way. Like their little scheme to screw over so many other people backfires on them so horribly that they're left completely out in the cold. And then we pick up with them again in Coming to America.
Coming to America. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Which is also a Christmas movie.
Yeah, it takes, well, it doesn't really have the theme of Christmas in the background, but yeah, it takes place in the month of December. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, just real quick, let me be the first to say that one of my loves of Trading Places, Jamie Lee Curtis.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes,
Oh,
indeed.
oh my God. As a young man
Yep.
watching that, woo. Yeah.
That is a great scene too.
Yeah.
Very memorable.
See, we don't even have to say what scene. We just know.
No, absolutely.
Well, it's the moment where she stopped being a scream queen, really. It's like she's
Yeah.
like a serious actress now.
Uh-huh.
Here we are, and let's go on with the story. Yeah.
It was a nice little way of doing it for sure. You know, it's take me serious as an actress,
Yeah.
Mhm.
and she does. She does an amazing job. She's awesome in it.
Oh yeah,
I
she's
love
great.
her. Yeah.
Dan Aykroyd in that movie is wonderful. I'll never forget. It always is great to see him in this downtrodden Santa suit eating a gigantic, like, lox salmon
Yep.
on his furry suit in the subway. Just take a bite out of it in the Santa costume, and it's so perfect.
And, like, while everybody's looking at him like, and he's like, great. But then what the other thing I love about it too is it's like the worst part of the holidays is just because you get this break, and in order to enjoy the break, you have to kill yourself at work. You have to work so damn hard, like 4 times harder than you should for 2 days off. Really, what amounts for most people is like you don't really get, like, you're not a kid anymore. You don't get the 2-3 weeks off of school. You get maybe a day, maybe 2 days off of work. In order to do that, you have to bust your ass. And that's what I love about this movie is like everybody is hustling as hard as they can. Jamie Lee Curtis is on her end. Dabney Coleman is doing his as the butler. He's trying to like be the nice guy, and he's stuck in the middle because of the Duke's scheme. And then you got Eddie Murphy, who's trying to prove that he can perform on this side of things, while Dan Aykroyd is plotting his revenge. And
my
yeah, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say that my other great memory of this film is obviously Ralph Bellamy and Don
Don Amici.
Amici. Yeah, thank you. So Ralph Bellamy and Don Amici, I mean, as the Duke brothers, man, they are forever for me. They are really honestly trading places. As much as I love Dan Aykroyd and Eddie Murphy in the film,
Yeah.
really without them at the center of it, being the masterminds of all of this, it's just
They're the humans. They're the human Statler and Waldorf for me. They're just
Right.
mean,
Yeah.
awful.
yes.
And then like from the review of the Paramount Presents disc, I grabbed the scene where, you know, the guy comes around with their drinks at the club, and he's like, "Oh, here's your tip, your Christmas tip." And he's like, $5. You go to the movie by myself, and then like the additional punchline on top of that is half of that's from me. And then immediately after that, Dan Aykroyd comes in to get these guys to sign the paychecks. And they're like, "We're paying these people a lot of money." And they're like, "Well, you can't really get around the minimum wage." And you're just like, what is the minimum wage in 1980?
Oh, man.
I love it. That's one of my favorite Christmas movies. But it's just a general movie for me. Like, once Thanksgiving is basically over, hands off. I can watch Trading Places as many times as I want a year.
Well, that's one thing I think movies that take place around Christmas for some reason, just as we've been talking about all of them, it seems like in some ways we see things in ourselves, things that are happening to us. When Matt was talking about just, you know, when you're working and you have to, you know, do something, you know, to get those days off, you have to work twice as hard or 3 times as hard or 4 times as hard. I don't know, it just seems like there's so much that we can relate to around the Christmas season. So sometimes the movies that take place around Christmas, no matter how much they have to do with Christmas or not, it seems like that there's, they can become more personal to us because we can identify to how we feel around that time of year. So when there's so it just kind of dawned on me as we were talking about it, is that it's some of these things, it's just like, I think that's why movies that take place around Christmas, you know, just kind of, you know, no matter what kind of genre they're in, they can be more identifiable sometimes than just normal movies. They just hit home a little bit harder. Just kind of dawned on me.
Yeah, they kind of make you reevaluate your priorities just a little bit. It's like, a good successful Christmas movie is like, am I doing what's worth it, or, you know?
Yeah, totally.
That's why like Meet Me in St. Louis is a gut punch.
Oh yeah. Yeah,
like that's another one that's an all holiday, because, you know, you got Halloween, you got Thanksgiving, but then you come up with Christmas and you're just like, ooh, Now you really got to reevaluate your priorities.
Well, I just read an article that they were talking, speaking of that movie, and the famous Christmas song from that movie, "Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas," and how that song, especially for this year 2020, is kind of more appropriate than ever before, because it kind of talks about, in that movie, the family is going to be moving away shortly after Christmas, and they're going to be leaving all of their friends and family. They may not be able to see them again for a while. And in this kind of 2020 year, when we're all isolated and we may not be able to get together for the holidays, it's kind of a hopeful song about, well, next year it'll be better. Next year we'll all be together again, and things like that. And so that one might hit home a little harder if we watch it this year, because we're all going to be apart, a lot of us, at Christmas time, when we're not used to it, and it's been such a tough year. And so when Margaret O'Brien goes out there and kills all of her snow people, which was probably the first Silent Night, Deadly Night, a prequel, she goes out and kills all of her snow people, with her broom or whatever. But that may hit home a little bit harder this year than other years.
For sure. Great. Well, that's what we got. This is awesome, guys.
Yeah.
Thanks for jumping on.
Yeah.
I'm glad this was so much fun.
Yeah.
Brian, E, all of us, we've all kind of like bantered about like, what would happen if we did something like this? And I'm glad we finally did it. And this is, I think, the perfect topic to kick this off. I hope we can make this a regular deal.
I would love that.
All in. And I'm so glad, because I've worked with y'all for, God, almost a decade, and I've never got to talk to any of you like this. And to put faces with names and emails, I feel like, I feel like, me personally, I could probably talk with you all through midnight tonight about movies.
Absolutely.
About Jamie Lee Curtis, right?
Yes.
That scene, that's 30 seconds. And
that one scene.
I miss Jamie Lee Curtis, man. I was happy to see her in Knives Out, and
oh man, that's Knives Out is a holiday movie to a degree. It's a Thanksgiving movie, a little bit, right? Because it takes place around that time.
Yep.
Right.
So,
okay, save that for next year. Save that for next year.
Well, you know what? I just wanted to throw out a quick shout out, because you guys just brought up about how, or David, you just brought up about how Christmas movies should be not necessarily about the actual Christmas itself, but about the theme about family and being together, right? And appreciating what you have. And what's really funny is that one Christmas movie that I know that I mentioned to all of you is Blood Beat. And I love that movie because it has absolutely nothing to do with the holiday. Absolutely nothing. No theme about family. If anything, it's destructive about family. But it's just a wonderful samurai supernatural movie that just happens to take place on Christmas for some weird reason. Just bizarre. And the best part of the whole movie is that last final battle with O Fortuna playing in the background. It's just absolutely fabulous. Anyways, I just thought it was really kind of funny that it fit perfectly with what you were saying, David, that this is one movie, though, that did absolutely the complete opposite. Takes place on Christmas, but has nothing to do with family.
Good stuff. All righty. I guess that'll close out today. Thanks for watching, everybody. Hope you enjoyed this. We hope to be doing more of these soon. I don't know if we probably can't do weekly, but we'll see what happens. Thanks for watching. Hopefully everybody out there is going to have a great holiday season. I know it's tough this year. 2020 has been a downer, but things are looking up already. The vaccine's rolling out to all those frontline workers, and thank you for everything you're doing out there. Thank you to all the essential workers who have kept the world going while the rest of us kind of get to shelter in place and then do this and BS about movies and have fun. You guys are doing the God's work, as they say. So thank you very much. Hope everybody is safe. Everybody gets to enjoy the holidays. Have a good time.
All right.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Happy Hanukkah.
Merry Christmas.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays.
Happy New Year.